Okay, so we're going to do this style card today, which uses just a rectangular piece of DSP that we cut on an angle. And I got this card as a swap at the On-Stage convention in Pittsburgh this past weekend. And this swap was from Lynn Aiken, so I thank her for the design. And I wanted to share it with you today. So this is so simple. You can see it's a Z-fold card. But it really features your DSP and just a small little focal point. So your DSP is really going to kind of be like the star of the show there. So let me show you how we go about doing this. We are going to take a full-size sheet of basic white cardstock. And just as a reminder, everybody, when you're doing your cardstock, let me see if I can bring this out a little bit. Okay, when you're cutting a lot of card bases, remember that you can score once and then cut, instead of cutting in half and then having to score twice. You save like a third of your time, right? So we're going to cut this the long way, so that means I want to score it horizontally. So we're going to score it at 5.5. And then if I just wanted a regular card, I would then cut it at 4.25. But because we're doing a Z-fold, we then want to also score it at 2.75. Okay, and then you just have one cut to do. You're going to cut it at 4.25. So now you'll have your two card bases with a little bit less work. So anything to save time is a good thing in my book. All right, so then we're going to, with our bone folder, fold it in half and burnish those creases. And then this other part will be folded backwards, and that's what's going to make our Z-fold. All right, and then we're going to put that aside. And we have a matte piece that is 5.25 by 4. Okay, so that's going to be in our color. And then we'll have another layer that is 1/4 inch less than that. So that's going to be 5 by 3.75. And then we have a piece of designer paper that is 4 by 3. Okay, so if your designer paper has a certain direction, keep that in mind, that it's going to go this way. All right, and we want to cut it at a diagonal. So also keep in mind the direction of your images, because this one doesn't matter so much because the shells are all over the place. I'm actually using, this paper comes from Textured Chic, which is all these pretty papers. This is a specialty Designwr Series paper. It has some gold foil elements to it, and it's in some nice pastels, colors, soft succulent, evening evergreen, pale papaya, and mango, and pinks, and very nice. So it's going to go this way, but what we're going to do is split it in half and separate it. Now we want the part revealed to go in this direction. So it's important to make sure that you're cutting it on the right angle. I once made a mistake and I cut it in the other direction, and it just didn't make sense, because then I think visually your eye wants to see from bottom to top and left to right, rather than from top to bottom and your sentiment going down this way. That just seems a little awkward. So make sure you kind of think about how you want that to go. So we're going to bring our trimmer back, and I'm going to cut from this corner to that corner. So I'm going to rotate that and put my points right in the groove of my trimmer. Hold it secure, and remember, I've told you before in other tutorials, don't come up with your blade onto that corner. It could smash it and compromise the sharp look of it. So bring your blade someplace in the middle, press it down, and then come down and back up again, and you'll get a cleaner look to those corners. All right, once that is done, we can then separate that, and you'll have about an inch in between. So that's why you want to pick a sentiment that's fairly big. You don't want anything too tiny that's going to get lost in the sauce, so to speak. Of course, this white layer underneath could be embossed after you stamp on it if you wanted to give it a little bit more texture. But we're just going to go from here. Now, this could be, you have to be thoughtful when you do this. It could be a little tricky because you don't want to just take your paper and say, okay, I'm going to stamp on diagonal. You want it to be rather centered in there. So there are a couple things you can do. First of all, you want to just line up your corners without gluing them down, because as you know, if you make a mistake, you want to be able to flip it over and not waste that pretty DSP that you have there. So you could just take your stamp and stamp it on there, okay, freehand as you would like, just making sure that these are kind of just sitting there in the position that you would want them, so you know where you want to stamp. Another option is to use your Stamparatus. So especially if you have a sentiment stamp where you might have two different, I'm going to use, for instance, I'm going to use the Biggest Wish. I love this because it has nice big sentiments on it. Obviously, Biggest Wish. So I'm going to do Happy Birthday. They're two separate stamps. And that's, the Stamparatus is really going to help me line that up properly. And also, it's obviously one of the other benefits of the Stamparatus is that if at first stamping it doesn't come out clear enough, you can re-ink your stamp and go over it again before you move your paper. Okay, so I'm just going to, again, line this up. And Stamparatus is good for even just holding these pieces in place, because you put your magnets right on there. They're not going to slip, even if you were just to stamp it with a block and a stamp. So that's helpful. Okay, so I can line those up. And then I can line up my sentiment right here. I can see exactly where that's going to go. Happy birthday. And, okay, I'm looking at the lowercase level letters. I don't want to necessarily just line up the stamps, because then it's going to look like one's higher, one's lower. So you want to look at the lowercase level. The birthday has more things going above the line, and the Happy has 3 letters going below the line, so I want to kind of even that out a little bit. And I'm going to leave a little bit of more space on this side so I can put my little design element over there. Okay, so I will just kind of line that up. I guess that's pretty good. I'll bring that down and bring that up. Okay, that's pretty good. Good enough. And then I'll close it up. Oops, sorry, here. And then it will pick up my stamps. Remember, with the photopolymer, you need that little foam piece underneath your paper on the Stamparatus. So in picking it up, it sticks a little bit. So I'm just going to readjust this, which is easy enough to do. And I'm going to stamp in soft suede because that's some of the colors that are in my paper. Move this over so it can be seen better. Okay, and I will purposely not make sure I ink it up all that well, just so you can see how we can redo this. So I'm going to just stamp that, and if I pick it up, it's not going to stick as much because there's ink on it, but I'm just demonstrating now how I didn't press it down all the way. It would be an oops if I didn't have it on the Stamparatus, but I can just re-ink. And many of you know how to use a Stamparatus, but for those of you who don't, here's a nice little lesson. and then you're going to go down. It's going to be in the same exact spot. So just want to make sure you kind of rub across the whole thing, make sure you get it. And if it doesn't come out, you just do it again. Okay, so I think I need to put a little bit more up there and a little bit more down there. So that's what's really nice about that. Especially if you have an ink pad that might not be quite as juicy, you need to re-ink it. Sometimes you just need to do it a couple of times. And then go back and re-ink your ink pad. Okay, so let's make sure we're good here. Ta-da! See, much better now, right? Yep, so there you go. So then we can take that off. We can glue it all together. Put that aside. Close the ink pad so that you don't have any accidents there. And then obviously just gluing it together is nice and easy. Okay, it's so nice to have two different options on the Stampin' Up! Designer Series paper. It's all two-sided. The bad part is it's two-sided, and if you use one side, then you lose out on the other side. But I really wouldn't have it any other way because everything coordinates so nicely when you need something to do that. Okay, so this is really pretty too. This would look nice with the little gold polka dots on there. Okay, another hint, when you're putting these triangular pieces on, make sure you get glue right to the tips. You don't want those tips sticking up. Okay, you don't have to have glue all in the middle, but definitely get the edges and right to the tips. But keep it light because you don't want it oozing out. So that's really tricky. Just a couple little light dots. All right, then from there, we'll put that on our colored cardstock. Let me get a different glue that has more in it, so I'm not shaking to death here. There we go. And you know, often I like to say, if something's going to be covered, punch out. Well, this is going to go on the front of the Z-fold, which is not a full coverage, so you do not want to do it for this card. Look how pretty that is. This is Petal Pink. I remember a long time ago, many years ago, maybe some of my longtime stampers will remember, there was a year where they came out with a brand new color combination, was very popular. It was pink and brown and the light blue and brown. And it was so pretty. We were like, ooh, who would have thought to do pink and brown and blue and brown? But yeah, it worked. Okay, so then we're going to put this on only the front flap of our Z-fold, because if we glue it all down, then obviously it won't open as we want it to with that little accordion fold. So the way I like to do this, so I don't make a mistake, is I'm going to put, I don't want to put glue on this part because I don't want to go too far to the edge. I want to make sure I keep my border. But I do know that this, the back of this piece is going to be adhered down. And then I don't want to go too far over this way. Yes, you could mark it or measure it, but the easier way for me is just to put some adhesive, some glue right here so that I know that this piece is going to be sticking down. Does that make sense? So I'm going to put it more on this side for the pink and this side for the white. Just making sure I don't go all the way to the ends. So here we go. This I can go all the way because it's going, I want every bit of it to be glued down. So this goes here, and I'll go over just a little bit. I know that inch or so is not going to be a problem here, but then over here I'll make sure I leave room for the border. I'm going to put just that little bit of adhesive there, maybe just a touch here because I know that's going to be covered as well. So you can leave this open because you want to center it on that whole 5.5 inch panel, but remember it's only being glued down on the left half. And then you have your Z-fold ready to go. All right, then all you have to do is put some elements on there, which I intend to put some of the shells from, where is it? Friends Are Like Seashells. I forget where I put that stamp set, but I'm going to do that later, so stay tuned to the end. And I plan to gold emboss it this time and maybe put some gold elements on there. So with the framed florets, with the fitting florets collection, these are the swirls that you get, the gold adhesive back swirls, and they're really kind of cool. Can you see that? Let me move it over here for my other camera to see as well. So they're nice little like rays coming out there, so it's fun. So I thought that would look nice on there because it has the lines on it like the scallop shell, so I thought that would be a nice coordinating texture to tap in on. So I'll put this all together and show it at the end afterwards. So let me show you a couple others that I did. Okay, so here's one with petal pink and the with the fitting florets, the designer paper. So that would go there, and then that would go there, and that will glue on. And then I cut from the stamp set, I stamped and cut out, with some dies, these little sprigs, and I put little mini dimensionals on the back, and I plan to put those over like that. So again, watch to the end. I'll get that all together, and you'll be able to see what that looks like in the pinks. This is pretty paper with the focusing a lot on the petal pink and the balmy blue, which we haven't done a lot with balmy blue lately, have we? I think it's been a kind of a lost color as much as we love it. So here's, again, paper from the same collection, and this is in Evening Evergreen. I die cut the flower, stamped and die cut it, and colored it in with blends to match the flowers over here. And again, I use that Hello Friend from the Biggest Wish set, and I use my Stamparatus to stamp that in the Evening Evergreen as well. All right, and then of course put a little stamp on the inside. So there's that. And then here's one that I had a goof and turned it into something else. Not totally something else, but I told you to be aware of the pattern on the back. Actually, I'm sorry, this was not my goof. I did have a goof in the pink, which the page was, I had cut it the wrong direction. But I already used this on the other card, so I said, well, the other side is kind of nice as well. Oh, wait, no, this is kind of, see how this might, this was sort of cut in the wrong direction. So if you say, well, turn around the other way, well, you still have the angle going in that direction. It's possible, I guess, you can make a vertical card. So that's always an option. Go across here. It would be rather uphill slope, but maybe you can find something to work. Or maybe bring it a little bit closer together, leave a bigger border around, and then put a label or something around there. So there's always ways that you can be creative and make it work. So this has, I decided to use the gingham side because I do love gingham, and that's the direction that it will be cut. And this is Evening Evergreen, so I didn't want to use more Evening Evergreen, so I went with a soft succulent as my background. And I love the Sending Smiles stamp set that has a nice big sentiment to it, but as you can see, it was just too big for this opening. So this stamp set comes with coordinating dies, which cuts, if I were to stamp this, it would cut this out like it was fussy cut, but it also comes with a die that cuts out the words alone, so you don't have to even stamp it. So that's where I have a strip of my soft succulent, and I saw that that die did fit in there because it's thinner and it's smaller. So you don't have to stamp your inside. This is the die that that cuts the word out. And even though it overhangs a little bit, I think it's going to be fine because I'm going to do it in the soft succulent and it will not get lost. And I'm gluing it over there. You wouldn't want to stamp that way But if we're going to attach it with adhesive, then that's something to do. Now, of course, we're going to use our adhesive back sheets for this. So I'm going to cut a piece of the adhesive sheet the same size as my cardstock. And I have my sticky scissors for this because I don't want to use my fabric scissors or my other paper scissors and get them all sticky. So you don't have to be perfect about it, just as long as it fits your what you're going to be punching or die cutting out. All right, now a lot of you have seen me do this before, but let me just finish this up and then we'll see what the finished card looks like. This one also, I'm not going to do a tiny element over there. I'm going to actually use the medium daisy punch, and I'm going to put a daisy on there because gingham and daisy, that just goes together, right? So here's what I do. You see me do this before. I pull down a little bit of that backing so that I can line this all up. So it'll only stick to the top until I have it all lined up. And then I'll just pull the rest off and it's already lined up, ready to go. And we're going to die cut that out. I have my mini machine right here. And oh, here's another hint, guys. I just saw on my demonstrator website, somebody mentioned this and it was just brilliant. We have the mini plates for our mini die cut machine. And she was suggesting that it's a good idea to use the mini plate for the top part of your sandwich, even when you're using the big machine, as long as your die cut is small enough and fitting in here. Now, there are two or three reasons. One is, she says it's easier to roll in, okay? It's easier to get that going. Second of all, when you need to replace it, it's cheaper to get the mini plates. And thirdly, because they are a little shorter, you don't have to crank as much. How many times have you had a little die cut and your plate is like this long and you just need it to really go this far? So sometimes you can go forward and back. You keep it at the top or the bottom. But these are a little bit shorter, so you don't do quite as much cranking. And some people who have shoulder problems or arthritis, that could be an issue. Okay, I went off the paper a little bit here because I wasn't paying attention, but we'll get the idea. I'll do it again and you'll see how it all goes. All right, so just so you get, again, I'll put this together and you can watch for it at the end. So now we'll just take this off, poke it out with a, take your pick tool. These teeny tiny dots help release it if it kind of gets stuck in there. These very, very thin dies sometimes do that, and then you can just poke out the inner part of the letters. All right, and get those bits out of there. And then you will see that that will look really nice right there too. All right, and I always lose the dot for the eye here. Okay, there is another, that's more of a teardrop shape, but it works. I think that came from the E or something. Anyway, I'll probably find it. But I thought that was adorable. And then putting a daisy over there. I just couldn't help myself because, of course, you know that's my logo. So I punched 2 daisies out of white. And then we'll glue them together offset. I took my Daffodil Delight ink and a sponge dauber, which I have in this very old stamp case that used to hold a lot of little mini stamps. I have one for most of the colors. I've labeled them. So just take your sponge dauber, dab it in the ink, and I just put a little center to that daisy. Then I realized it's just way too white. When it's going to be on the white background here, it was hard to see the contrast. So then I just took my dauber again, and I just flicked some color on the edges of the petals, just so that when it's against the white cardstock, it gives just a little bit of contrast, and it also looks a little bit more natural in color. So then we'll put just a dab of glue on the center there and offset the petals to look like a fuller flower. Put a dimensional dot on the back, and I'm not going to glue it down onto the card yet because I need to put all the other pieces together. But you have the idea. So I think that will look really cute. And then obviously sending what? Well, this stamp set has a lot of different options. Smiles across the miles, good luck, sunshine, hug and kisses, birthday, note of thanks, card to say hello, comfort and strength. So practically for any little thing. I took a 1/4-inch strip that I had laying around, stamped note of thanks on there, and I will just cut that down, and then that can go down here. So just another option of how you can lay out your card based on that same design. All right, so I think that was all my designs today. So we had that one, and I'm running out of space here. The other stuff seems to just encroach on you, right? Okay, just push it all away. And we had the pink one. And of course we had the original one. So I'll get these all kind of put together, and I'll like to show them off at the end. So a few different ways to use that same design. Okay, so hope you try some of your own. Thanks for watching.